Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that the greatest threat to your success is not poverty, not competition, not bad luck, and not even failure? What if the greatest threat to your success is the person you see every morning in the mirror? Because there is something terrifying about human potential. A person can spend an entire lifetime carrying a magnificent life inside them and never have the courage to bring it into the world. Think about that. You could die with your greatest idea still trapped inside your mind. You could leave this world with your greatest book unwritten, your greatest business unbuilt, your greatest apology unspoken, your greatest talent unused, and your greatest dream buried beneath the excuses you repeated so often that eventually you began to believe them. And perhaps the tragedy is not that you failed. Perhaps the tragedy is that you never truly tried. We have been taught to think of success as something outside ourselves. We imagine a number in a bank account, a title on a business card, a house with a beautiful view, a luxury car, a trophy, a crowd applauding, a photograph of ourselves standing at the top of a mountain while everyone else looks up. But there is another mountain. It is the mountain within. And many people spend their entire lives conquering the outer world while remaining strangers to themselves. They become successful in the eyes of society and unsuccessful in the silence of their own souls. They achieve everything they were told to want, only to arrive at the destination and discover that they never asked the most important question: is this actually the life I wanted? That question can change everything, because success is not merely about getting more. Success is about becoming more conscious, more courageous, more disciplined, more authentic, more capable of facing yourself without running away. There is a strange paradox about life. The more desperately you chase approval, the more distant you become from yourself. And the more honestly you become yourself, the less you need the approval of others. The world will constantly tell you who you should be. Your family may tell you. Your friends may tell you. Your culture may tell you. Social media may tell you. Your failures may tell you. Even your fears may tell you. But somewhere beneath all that noise is a quieter voice. A voice that says, this is who you are becoming. And if you are willing to listen, your life begins to change. There was once a young man who dreamed of becoming extraordinary. He wanted success badly. He imagined himself rich, respected, admired, and powerful. Every night, he visualized the future. Every morning, he promised himself that today would be different. But months passed, then years. His dreams remained exactly where they had always been. Inside his imagination, one day, an older man asked him, "What are you waiting for?" The young man answered, "The right opportunity." The older man smiled and said, "No. You are waiting to become the person who is brave enough to take the opportunity." That is the secret most people never discover. Opportunity is not always missing. Sometimes courage is. Sometimes discipline is. Sometimes clarity is. Sometimes the real problem is not that life has refused to open the door. Sometimes we are standing in front of the door, afraid of what might happen if we walk through it. You say you want success. But are you willing to become the person? Success requires you to become. That is a different question. Because everyone wants the harvest. Few people want the planting. Everyone wants the applause. Few people want the lonely practice. Everyone wants the transformation. Few people want the discomfort that transformation demands. Everyone wants the destination. Few people respect the road. And yet the road is where you are being built. Your life is not built in one dramatic moment. It is built in the small moments nobody sees. It is built when you get up early, even though you do not feel like it. It is built when you study while others are wasting time. It is built when you continue after rejection. It is built when you choose patience instead of anger. It is built when you admit that you were wrong. It is built when you walk away from something that is destroying you. It is built when you keep a promise you made to yourself. That is where success lives. Not in the spectacular moment. In the ordinary moment, repeated with extraordinary consistency. There is a part of human psychology that prefers fantasy to responsibility. Fantasy allows us to imagine ourselves successful without demanding that we change. We can imagine writing the book without sitting down to write. We can imagine becoming fit without enduring the training. We can imagine building a company without surviving uncertainty. We can imagine becoming a great leader without learning to serve. We can imagine becoming wise without allowing life to humble us. The fantasy gives us the emotional reward without requiring the sacrifice. But life eventually asks for payment, and the currency is action. You cannot think your way into a transformed life. At some point, you must act. At some point, the dream has to leave your mind and enter your calendar. At some point, inspiration has to become discipline. At some point, desire has to become decision. And at some point, decision has to become behavior. That is when transformation begins. One of the greatest battles you will ever fight is the battle between who you are today and who you know you could become. The old version of you will fight for survival. It will whisper, "Stay comfortable." It will say, "Tomorrow." It will say, "You are not ready." It will say, "People will laugh." It will say, "What if you fail?" And perhaps the most dangerous voice will say, "What if you succeed and everything changes?" Because success changes identity. When you become successful, you can no longer hide behind the old excuses. You can no longer say, "I could have." You must face the reality of what you did. That is why growth can be frightening. You are not merely building a new life. You are saying goodbye to an old identity. And psychologically, that can feel like death. But some deaths are necessary. The death of cowardice. The death of helplessness. The death of procrastination. The death of the need to please everyone. The death of the belief that you are permanently defined by your past. You are not your worst mistake. You are not the rejection you experienced. You are not the opinion of someone who failed to see your value. You are not the chapter of your life that you are ashamed of. You are a human being in the process of becoming. And becoming is messy. Becoming is painful. Becoming is uncertain. But becoming is also beautiful. There is something powerful about a person who has been broken by life and decides not to become bitter. There is something extraordinary about a person who has been rejected and chooses to improve instead of surrender. There is something magnificent about someone who has failed 10 times and says, "I will learn 11 lessons." That is strength, not the absence of pain. The ability to transform pain into wisdom. Failure can either become a prison or a teacher. The difference is your interpretation. When you fail, you can say, "This proves I am not good enough." Or you can ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" That second question changes everything. Imagine a child learning to walk. The child falls. Nobody looks at the child and says, "What a failure. Clearly walking is not for you." No, the child gets up, falls again, gets up again, falls again. And eventually something miraculous happens. The child walks, not because falling stopped, but because the child refused to make falling a final decision. What happened to that courage? Where did we lose it? Somewhere along the way, we became afraid of looking foolish. We became afraid of judgment. We became afraid of rejection. We became afraid of failure. And so we stopped walking toward the things we wanted. But listen carefully. You do not need permission to become who you are capable of becoming. You need courage. You need commitment. And you need the willingness to be uncomfortable for a while. Because comfort is a beautiful servant, but a terrible master. Comfort says, "Stay here." Growth says, "Come with me." Comfort says, "You already know this." Growth says, "Learn something new." Comfort says, "Protect yourself." Growth says, "Risk becoming more." The question is not whether you will experience discomfort. You will. The question is whether your discomfort will be meaningful. There is the pain of discipline and the pain of regret, the pain of practice and the pain of wondering what could have been, the pain of saying no today and the pain of realizing years later that you said yes to everything except your own future. Choose your pain carefully, because life will give you pain regardless. The wise person chooses the pain that leads somewhere. And that brings us to something deeper. Purpose. Motivation is temporary. You will not wake up every morning feeling inspired. There will be mornings when your alarm rings and your dream feels distant. There will be days when nobody encourages you. There will be weeks when progress is invisible. There will be moments when you question whether any of it is worth it. That is why motivation alone cannot carry you. You need something deeper. You need purpose. When you know why you are doing something, you can survive the how. A person with no purpose asks, "How difficult is this?" A person with purpose asks, "How necessary is this?" That is a completely different mindset. Think about someone running toward a burning building to save another person. Do you think they are calculating whether it is comfortable? No. Purpose overrides comfort. Purpose gives pain meaning. Purpose transforms sacrifice into devotion. And your purpose does not have to be world-changing. Perhaps your purpose is to give your children a better life. Perhaps it is to create something that helps people. Perhaps it is to become the first person in your family to break a destructive pattern. Perhaps it is to turn your own suffering into something useful. Perhaps your purpose is simply to discover what you are capable of. Whatever it is, find it. Because when the reason becomes strong enough, the excuses become weaker. But purpose alone is not enough. You must build discipline. Discipline is the bridge between intention and achievement. You can have talent without discipline and remain average. You can have intelligence without discipline and remain stuck. You can have dreams without discipline and remain a dreamer. But when discipline enters the equation, potential begins to become reality. Discipline is doing what needs to be done when your emotions are arguing against it. It is keeping the promise after the excitement has disappeared. It is working when nobody is watching. It is continuing when nobody is clapping. And perhaps, most importantly, discipline teaches you something about yourself. It teaches you that you can trust yourself. Every time you say, you will do something, and then do it, you strengthen your relationship with yourself. Every time you repeatedly break your own promises, you weaken that relationship. This is why small commitments matter. Do not begin by promising yourself that you will transform your entire life overnight, but portion yourself something smaller. Ride 10 pages. Exercise for 20 minutes. Vrot for 30 minutes. Study one difficult concept. Wake up when the alarm rings. Finish what you started. Then repeat it. And repeat it again. Your identity begins to change. You begin to think, I am someone who keeps promises to myself. That belief is powerful, because eventually, discipline stops feeling like punishment. It becomes identity. You no longer have to ask, do I feel like doing this? You simply do it because that is who you are. And there is another secret of success that many people ignore. You must learn to walk alone without believing that you are abandoned. There will be seasons when people do not understand your vision. Some will laugh. Some will doubt you. Some will tell you that you have changed. And perhaps they are right. You are changing. That is the point. Not everyone who knew the old you will understand the new you. And you must not demand that everyone understand. Some people are comfortable with the version of you that asks for nothing, risks nothing, challenges nothing. The moment you grow, your growth can make other people uncomfortable. Do not hate them for it, but do not shrink yourself to make them comfortable either. You are responsible for your life, not your neighbor, not your classmates, not your critics, not strangers on the internet. You, at the end of your life, you will have to live with the person you became. And that is why you must be careful about whose expectations you use to measure your life. You cannot spend your whole existence trying to prove yourself to people who are not living your life. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them misunderstand. You keep building. There is a quiet dignity in becoming excellent without needing to announce it. Work, learn, improve, build, fall, rise, repeat. Let your results speak. But remember this: success without inner development can become another form of failure. You can acquire wealth and lose yourself. You can gain followers and lose friends. You can become famous and remain lonely. You can win the argument and lose the relationship. You can conquer an industry and be defeated by your own mind. So do not measure your life only by what you possess. Measure it by what you have become. Are you more courageous than you were 5 years ago? Are you more compassionate, more disciplined, more honest, more capable of handling adversity, more comfortable with uncertainty, more willing to take responsibility, more capable of loving without controlling, more capable of standing alone without becoming cold? These are forms of wealth too, and they cannot be purchased. There comes a moment in every person's life when the external noise becomes quiet enough to hear the internal question, who am I? Not what do I own? Not what do people think of me? Not what title do I have? Not how successful do I look? Who am I? That question is the beginning of a deeper kind of success. Because when you know yourself, you stop trying to live someone else's life. You stop chasing goals, simply because everyone else is chasing them. You begin to distinguish between desire and conditioning. You begin to understand which ambitions belong to you and which were handed to you. You begin to realize that some things you desperately wanted were never truly yours. And some things you were afraid to want may be exactly what your life is calling you toward. That requires courage, because authenticity has a price. You may disappoint people. You may have to change direction. You may have to admit that the path you have been walking is not your path. But there is greater pain in spending 20 years climbing a ladder only to discover that it was leaning against the wrong wall. So pause sometimes. Look around. Ask yourself, where am I going? Why am I going there? And who am I becoming along the way? Those questions are not signs of weakness. They are signs of consciousness. The unconscious person simply reacts to life. The conscious person begins to participate in creating it. And perhaps that is the deepest secret of success. Success is not something that happens to you. It is something you participate in creating. Every decision is a vote for the person you will become. Every habit is a brick. Every conversation is a brick. Every hour is a brick. Every sacrifice is a brick. Every excuse is also a brick. And eventually, you build something. The question is, what are you building? A life of courage, or a life of avoidance? A life of purpose, or a life of distraction? A life that belongs to you, or a life designed to impress people who may forget your name? You have more power than you realize. Not unlimited power, not magical power, but enough power to change the direction of your life. You can choose the next action. You can choose the next habit. You can choose whether to learn. You can choose whether to apologize. You can choose whether to begin again. And sometimes that is enough. You do not need to see the entire staircase. You need enough courage to take the next step. Maybe your life is difficult right now. Maybe you are standing in a season that makes no sense. Maybe you have worked hard and nothing seems to be happening. Maybe you have been rejected. Maybe someone told you that you are not capable. Maybe you failed at something that mattered deeply to you. Maybe you are exhausted. If that is where you are, hear me carefully. Do not confuse a difficult chapter with a failed life. A winter is not the death of a tree. Sometimes life becomes quiet because something is growing beneath the surface. The seed spends a long time underground before anyone sees the tree. Your preparation may be invisible. Your discipline may be invisible. Your healing may be invisible. Your learning may be invisible. But invisible does not mean meaningless. There are things happening inside you that the world cannot yet see. Keep going. One day, the work that nobody noticed will become the strength everybody notices. One day, the lessons you thought were destroying, you may become the wisdom that saves someone else. One day, the rejection you cried over may become the redirection you thank life for. One day, you may look backward and realize that the chapter you wanted to skip was the chapter that built you. So do not waste your suffering. Learn from it. Do not waste your failures. Study them. Do not waste your solitude. Use it. Do not waste your time. Invest it. Do not waste your life trying to become someone else. Become yourself. And then become the strongest, wisest, most disciplined version of yourself that you can. That is success. Success is waking up and knowing that you are moving in the direction of your deepest values. Success is being able to look into the mirror without needing to lie to yourself. Success is keeping your integrity when nobody could have discovered your dishonesty. Success is having the courage to begin again. Success is becoming capable of carrying responsibility without constantly blaming the world. Success is having ambition without allowing ambition to consume your humanity. Success is being able to win without becoming arrogant and lose without becoming broken. Success is learning how to stand in the storm without becoming the storm. And if wealth comes, use it wisely. If recognition comes, remain humble. If power comes, use it to serve. If failure comes, use it to grow. If success comes, remember who you were before anyone applauded. Because applause is temporary. Character remains. One day, the applause will stop. The photographs will fade. The titles will disappear. The possessions will belong to someone else. And you will be left alone with the person you became. Make sure that person is someone you respect. Make sure you did not betray yourself to impress the world. Make sure you did not sacrifice your soul for a number. Make sure you did not become rich in possessions and poor in meaning. Make sure you did not spend your whole life waiting for permission. You were not born merely to consume. You were born to create, to learn, to love, to struggle, to transform, to contribute, to become. So if there is a dream inside you, stop asking whether you are guaranteed success. You are not. Nobody is. Ask instead, is this worth pursuing, even though I cannot guarantee the outcome? If the answer is yes, begin. Begin badly. Begin afraid. Begin without applause. Begin without certainty. Begin with what you have, because perfection is often procrastination, wearing beautiful clothes. You do not need to be ready. You need to be willing. Willing to learn. Willing to fail. Willing to change. Willing to work. Willing to continue. Willing to become. And when you fall, remember this: the ground is not your enemy. It is where you learn how to stand. Every great life contains moments when the person living it wonders whether they can continue. Every great journey contains darkness. Every meaningful transformation contains uncertainty. The difference is that some people interpret darkness as the end. Others understand that darkness can be the place where their eyes adjust. So keep walking, even when you cannot see the entire road. Keep walking, even when nobody believes in you. Keep walking, even when progress is painfully slow. Keep walking, even when you have to walk alone. Keep walking, because there is something waiting on the other side of your persistence that cannot be reached by talent alone. It is not simply success. It is self-respect. It is confidence born from evidence. It is the knowledge that you did not abandon yourself. And perhaps, years from now, you will look back at this moment and realize that everything changed when you stopped waiting to be rescued. You became responsible for your own life. You stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and started asking, "What can I do with what is happening to me?" That is the turning point. That is where victimhood begins to become agency. That is where fear begins to become courage. That is where potential begins to become reality. And that is where success truly begins. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to leave here with one thought. Do not spend your life trying to prove that you are worthy of success. You are already worthy of becoming more. The real question is whether you are willing to do the work. Are you willing to confront the parts of yourself that keep you small? Are you willing to release the identity that no longer serves you? Are you willing to choose discipline when comfort calls? Are you willing to choose purpose when distraction is easier? Are you willing to fail without defining yourself by failure? Are you willing to walk toward the unknown? Because somewhere inside you is a future version of yourself that is waiting, not for luck, not for permission, not for the perfect moment. For you, that future you is built through today's choices. So make the choice. Get up, begin. Take the first step. Then take another and another. Let your actions become evidence that your excuses were never destiny. Let your failures become teachers. Let your pain become wisdom. Let your discipline become freedom. Let your purpose become your compass. And let your life become the answer to the question you have carried quietly within you. What was I capable of becoming? Perhaps the secret of success was never hidden. Perhaps it was standing in front of you every morning. Perhaps it was waiting in your habits. Waiting in your courage. Waiting in your willingness to begin again. Waiting in that moment when you finally decide that your fear will no longer make your decisions. You do not need to become extraordinary overnight. You only need to stop betraying the extraordinary potential that already exists within you. Build quietly. Grow deeply. Walk courageously. And when life knocks you down, rise with greater wisdom than the person who fell. Because the goal is not merely to reach the top. The goal is to become strong enough, wise enough, and conscious enough to understand what the journey was trying to teach you. One day, the world may call you successful, but long before the world notices, you will know. You will know because you kept going when nobody was watching. You will know because you became someone you once only dreamed of becoming. You will know because you stopped running from yourself and finally began walking toward yourself. And when that day comes, you will understand something profound. The greatest victory was never defeating the world. It was meeting yourself in the deepest darkness, looking directly into your own eyes and saying, I am still here. I am not finished. I will rise. I will become. And then you rise. You become. You build. You live. Not the life the world demanded from you, but the life you had the courage to create. That is success. That is the secret. And perhaps the most beautiful secret of all is this. The person capable of changing your life has been with you all along. It is you. Now go and meet that person.